And welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones, and we're so glad to have you here. With Governor Mikie Sherrill marking her first 100 days in office, Republicans in the New Jersey legislature are assessing the new Democratic administration. Standing by is Assemblyman Paul Kanitra of the 10th Legislative District to discuss how GOP lawmakers are working with Governor Sherrill's team, where they see common ground, and what expectations they hold for the year ahead on issues like affordability, taxes, and state spending. First, though, New Jersey's Lieutenant Governor Dr. Dale Caldwell joins us as the administration marks 100 days in office. He is the state's second in command, also Secretary of State, and a key partner in the administration. We're going to be discussing stepping in as acting governor and launching a new faith-based initiative, as well as planning for America's 250th. Lieutenant Governor Caldwell, welcome to the show. So good to see you.
I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, Governor Sherrill has described the first 100 days in office as a sprint focused on lowering costs, cutting red tape, delivering for families. I want to know what it's been like for you, these first 100 days in office.
It's been a sprint, but the most fun sprint I've ever had in my life, because it's an honor to work with the governor. We are hand in glove together. And we're really focusing on making sure that we see everybody in New Jersey, and it's really been a blessing.
Yeah. Well, so you've come into this role with a strong background in higher education, community leadership, public service, but this is your first time as a statewide elected office. So is there anything that surprised you about the day-to-day realities now that you are Lieutenant Governor as well as Secretary of State?
Well, a couple things. First, I didn't know that I would enjoy it as much as I do. As you can watch our social media profiles, we're all over the state. We're meeting with different people, even after the campaign. And one, I just really love that. I love learning from people, being out there and seeing how diverse the state is, but how great the state is. And two, that's the good side. The bad side, I shouldn't say bad, is that we're a small state. We could do so much more to communicate across the communities so that state government can be that much more effective. And that, as Secretary of State, that's one of the things I'm making a priority.
Okay. So can you just talk a little bit about, when you're on the outside looking in, like anybody when they're elected to office, they have goals and agendas, and then you get to the realities of, some of the things that make it can be challenging to get an agenda through, or things that might be surprising. So can you just talk a little bit about that transition? What have you enjoyed, as you've transitioned into the public sector, whether it's on policy, engaging communities, something else, versus, the reality of sometimes the wheels go very slow in Trenton?
Well, I mean, the good news is, because I've been around a long time, and I'm not even sure the governor knew that I've been around these 2 decades, and I know so many people. The joke on the campaign was, no matter where we went, I knew somebody there. And so that's been a big advantage in the first 100 days, because I've been able to connect people who hadn't been connected before. And so, jobs is obviously one of our top priorities. We want to clear out the bureaucracy so that businesses can do that much better. But what I learned, especially being in higher ed and K-12, is there's been a disconnect between the employers, between higher education, vocational programs, and K-12. And so one of the things that I've learned is, just by connecting and communicating with those different sectors, we're going to be able to really place people in jobs in ways that I didn't think would be as easy as I think it's becoming.
Yeah. New Jersey's office of the governor is one of the most, if not the most powerful governor in the country. And you've already served as acting governor on several occasions. Mm-hmm. So can you just talk a little bit about that experience? Again, what it's like. You worked for community affairs under the McGreevey administration. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What is it like actually having to step into those footsteps? And how does that kind of shape your perspective on leadership and decision making?
Well, one of the first things that surprised me was, just as Lieutenant Governor, how much people listen to me now even more. So when I say something, I have to know that this is coming from the Lieutenant Governor. It may not be policy. But being acting governor, that takes it to a next level. So I'm very, very precise about my words, and make sure that I don't make any promises that'll get me in trouble. So, right. The governor and I really have a great relationship. And so, I really try to carry out her agenda when she's out of state. It's been 4 times
Yeah.
so far, and it's really been wonderful. And so you don't feel it, but people treat you a little differently.
Yeah. So, as Secretary of State, you're not only Lieutenant Governor, but Secretary of State. You are in charge of elections. So, can you talk a little bit about what you and your team are doing now to prepare? Because the next election cycle is upon us. Primary elections, we have congressional elections, especially when it comes to voter confidence and access.
Well, one of the things that New Jersey has a lot of elections compared to other states. And so I remember going to my first Secretary of State's conference where you had Secretary of States from around the country together. And I didn't know how we'd be viewed, but it was very clear, Laura, that we actually have one of the top 2 or 3 best election teams in the country. And so, and partly because we communicate so well with the counties and the local municipalities. And so we've already the CD11, we've gone through that process to get to this, and we have more coming. But we have an incredible team. Lauren Zyrak is my Assistant Secretary of State. Donna Barbara has been the local the election leader at the state. And so we are having weekly meetings, regular conversations. And then part of what the governor and I have talked about is me getting out more, and I've started to do that to let people know that New Jersey elections are safe. Yeah, my dad marched with Dr. King to get election rights so that people could vote and have the confidence of voting. And so I let people know that it wasn't too long ago that people didn't have that right, or people tried to dissuade them from doing that. So we're making sure that people know elections are safe. I'm meeting with Homeland Security, our cybersecurity group about that. And so I feel stronger than ever that our elections are going to be as safe, probably safer than ever before. And so we want to let the word get the word out. The other thing is we want to make sure young people understand the importance of elections and how they analyze issues. So we're really working with local schools to do that.
Well, when you talk about, your father marching with Martin Luther King, that really wasn't that long ago. And then when you even look at the past 5 years and all that has happened, and your predecessor, Tahisha Way, also Sheila Oliver, Tahisha Way, everything they did to make voting more accessible, early voting, vote by mail, drop off. They've done a lot. There are ways to track your ballot. And we talked a lot with the past lieutenant governor to ensure that there is facts and information, because you hear a lot of rhetoric at the national level, but elections are, run at the state level. So can you talk about where New Jersey stands compared to other states when it comes to safety, security, and that accessibility? I know when my kids got their driver's license, they already registered to vote. I didn't have to take them. They did that themselves. It was a proactive choice that they were able to do on their own, and I was delighted.
Well, and again, being geographically smaller than a lot of other states makes it easier for us to really communicate and connect in ways around elections that other states have had difficulty doing. And people don't think about that. But as I said, we are really probably the best election system in the country. But we've got to make sure that that people understand that and people truly believe that. Our state police, as I said, cybersecurity, Homeland Security, we just had a meeting 2 weeks ago with all of the security organizations in the state with the election team, just to make sure that we are prepared for any contingencies. We have another tabletop exercise coming up. So I'm going to let people know about all the things we're doing to prepare for any eventuality, so that we are ready and people will be safe, they'll feel safe, and they'll be able to exercise their right of suffrage.
Yeah, that takes a lot of time, coordination. Outside of those responsibilities and looking ahead, right? We finished the first 100 days. Looking ahead to the rest of this year, where do you see your primary focus? What are your priorities? Obviously, supporting the governor and her agenda, but that really helps you personally deliver and drive for the administration.
Well, given that I have a business background, I was at Deloitte Consulting, I was at Scholastic. I'm playing a big role in working with the businesses to really connect them with the education institutions to make sure that we have the best prepared workforce in the United States of America. I think in order to make New Jersey more affordable, we have to make sure that people have jobs that help them pay their bills. And so the amazing thing, Laura, that I'll tell you is that In the manufacturing sector, we have about 35,000 available jobs. In cybersecurity, we have about 14,000 available jobs. And then we have literally thousands of jobs that people just don't know about. So we're trying to make sure that people are placed in those jobs. So that's key. Jobs are going to be critical. But also we have the biggest, what will be the biggest sporting event in the history of the world is right here in New Jersey. The World Cup. Every 4 years, the World Cup gets bigger and bigger. Now that it's in the United States of America, it's going to be bigger than ever. And so the world will be watching New Jersey. So I'm also really playing a big role. I just left a tourism conference at the memorial, the War Memorial, and really telling them that this is our chance to show the world how great New Jersey is. You know, there's a lot of talk about New York and Philadelphia, but we're New Jersey. Yeah. We are New Jersey, and now the world is watching. And so I think it'll do incredible things for our economy, incredible things for the entire state of New Jersey that we've never seen before. So that's another priority, as well as Revolution 250, the 250th anniversary. So our hands are busy at the Department of State, and it's exciting.
Yeah, well, when it comes to the 2026 World Cup, first and foremost, we got to stop have people saying New York. It's in New Jersey.
No, yes, it's New Jersey.
We got to get. How do we get that? It's a Jersey. Yep.
That's as I talk, I'm trying to instill this energy and pride in the state of New Jersey. Yes. That it really is New Jersey Stadium, and that that everything that really is significant is happening here in New Jersey. And so we're really, we're really trying to get people to realize how special this state is. Oftentimes we focus on the negative without really talking about the incredible positives that we have here. And the thing I've learned too is there are so many more great tourist spots in the New Jersey that I never knew about. So we've got to get the word out.
One of the other things I want to shift gears just a little bit is another part of your background. You recently announced the launch of the New Jersey Faith Action Center. Out of the former Office of Faith-Based Initiatives. So can you talk a little bit about that as somebody, a man of faith? What is the vision for the center? How is it going to help connect faith communities with state and local resources to, address some real problems people are dealing with?
And I want to make sure that people understand it's the Faith Action Center. It's for people who may believe in God, but people who may not, but who have faith in people helping people. And really that was developed and expanded to be a communication network across the state. There's so many great programs that are online that many of the people who need them don't know about. But when a trusted community or faith advisor tells you there's a LIHEAP program for energy, then you'll know to take advantage of it. That there are job opportunities, you'll take advantage of it. There are also facilities that they have that can be used for training, for after-school programs and other things at low cost. So we can really help the state become more effective. If there are problems like weather or storms or other things, we can get that out to the network. I know the governor really liked that aspect of it, so that we'll have millions of people kind of in this network to provide support. And I also, and the governor, I've talked about making sure that no matter what your zip code is, no matter what your income is, no matter who you are, we want New Jersey to really help you. This allows us to provide another layer of support for the most vulnerable, to make sure that everybody in New Jersey is able to live the wonderful life that Jersey can afford them. And so this network, I think you're going to hear a lot of good things about it. And it's not an exclusive network. It's really encouraging people. And it's tied with our Office of Volunteerism, so that we'll get some of the best volunteers of the world working together to make New Jersey even better.
Do you see your office and your role in this administration? There's so much, again, at many levels, a divide of bickering. But one of the things I find interesting, and you mentioned this at the top of the interview, as somebody who's been around Trenton, and then you can leave Trenton and then come back, and it's kind of like a soap opera. You pick up where you last left off. And one of the things that always strikes me as a reporter, having covered Trenton, no matter how much people disagree, there's really far more people agree upon. But what often makes the headlines is the divisiveness. Do you see part of your role as bringing people together and trying to cut through that clutter so that there isn't so much focus on the negative and focus on all the positive things that are New Jersey? Yeah, it's expensive to live here. There's a lot of challenges, but there's also a lot of good. And just as we kind of close that out, your thoughts on using your experience, your office, to bring about cohesiveness as a state?
people who've known me the last 20 years know that's who I am. I'm just a positive person. I see the good in everybody. And part of what we do, and I'm pastor of Covenant United Methodist Church in Plainfield, is gratitude. Just be grateful for what we have. And we have an amazing state. And I think when I'm talking out there and being so positive about the state, it seems to resonate. And I think people don't hear enough positive things about how great New Jersey is. And yeah, there's some challenges. Yeah, we all are struggling in one way or another. But I also learned this in consulting, that when people have that positive attitude, we can move mountains. And so together in the state, part of my job as Secretary of State is to bring these networks together to move mountains in a positive way so that everyone has a great experience in New Jersey. And I think you're going to hear more and more of this positive culture so that we can really achieve our potential as a state and as an administration.
Yeah, it's about gratitude. And I'm very grateful that you had so much time to spend with us today. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. It's so great seeing you again. And you do wonderful interviews. So keep up the great work.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're wonderful to interview, so right back at you. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks.
Governor Mikie Sherrill's first 100 days in office are now complete, and Republicans in Trenton are weighing in, from budget battles to property tax relief and economic growth. How is the GOP working with the new Democratic administration? Assemblyman Paul Kanitra of the 10th Legislative District joins us now to share how Republicans are collaborating, where they see opportunities, and what they expect moving forward. Assemblyman Kanitra, welcome. Good to see you.
Great to see you again, Laura.
Well, let's talk about Governor Sherrill. She's talked about highlighting actions from freezing utility rates, permit reforms, securing gateway tunnel funding in her first 100 days. But from across the aisle, the Republican perspective in the Assembly, how would you assess how she's doing?
Look, first 100 days, there's a lot of good ideas out there. In practice, I have some real concerns about what's actually been done. You know, she started off on the same ideological front that Governor Murphy did, even taking that a little bit further with passing and signing 3 illegal immigration bills and going after law enforcement with ICE and other restrictions. She hasn't tackled important things that matter to my district. I want to see it all translate into real action instead of just words.
Yeah, still a little bit of a honeymoon period.
I guess 100 days is a big chunk of time, right?
Well, how are Republicans working with the administration so far? Are there any specific areas, whether it's cutting red tape, economic development, property tax relief? I mean, things are so expensive. Anything where you're finding common ground and are actively collaborating?
Well, I myself, I wouldn't know that. I said something negative about the governor online a couple of weeks ago, and she had somebody come off of one of my bills as punishment for that. So I'm just sitting here on the sidelines. I haven't seen a lot of collaboration myself so far.
What happened?
I criticize, quite frankly, that I think it's mostly words and rhetoric and, just saying bad stuff about Trump instead of actual action. I've got schools in my district that are bleeding jobs left and right, that are in hundreds of millions of dollars of deficit. I've got 300,000 homes across New Jersey that are going into new flood zones because of rules that she allowed when she came into office and hasn't made any action on. I'm seeing detrimental effects left and right. We got a new proposed budget with increases on it when we barely can afford anything. We're raiding the surplus. I could go on and on and on. So I'm not seeing a lot of collaboration right now on my side.
Yeah. So when you have this divided government, what are the top issues where you believe Republicans can make progress and then work with the Democrats, because the Democrats have such not just a majority, an overwhelming majority. Where can you find a place to address these issues to help the voters? Of
course. And I'm sure this isn't the interview you assumed it was going to be. But look, cutting red tape sounds great in theory, right? She says she wants to roll back regulations. She had a great press conference in front of a nuclear reactor. It was the first time that a Democrat has embraced anything related to nuclear, has even said the word nuclear in what seems like eons. We've got to really figure out the energy cost crisis that we're dealing with as a state. And if we can roll back regulations and all the red tape that's taking it so long to get new power sources online, that's one great start right there.
How hopeful are you that that will happen? Because you're right in the middle of budget, right? And there are a lot of concerns when it comes to the governor's first budget proposals and overall spending direction.
Well, the spending direction seems to be, instead of cutting costs and finding out how we bring this bloated budget down that's gone up over 70% since Chris Christie left office, instead of doing that, they seem to be finding where can we wring more pennies out of more people. They promised not to raise taxes in any form or fashion. And here we go. We've got a 30-mile radius, which is a huge chunk of this state that's going to be dealing with an additional 3% increase for the World Cup. It can't just be that the solution to all our crises is finding more money to wring out of people, right? We have the worst corporate environment for any state in the entire country. They haven't touched the 3% tax or whatever the heck they're calling it, that they're making companies leave the state left and right. ExxonMobil just left. Joe's Tea just left New Jersey. We have to stop the bleeding instead of doing more squeezing.
Can you talk? Well, I can tell you myself, as a parent of kids graduating college, graduating high school, talking to other families, the empty nesters who are still working in New Jersey, they're contemplating, do we even stay, right? A lot of people, when they are retiring, they are not able to afford the taxes. Students are going out of state. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I can't tell you how many people I'm hearing they're having to move, not because they're ready to retire, but because they simply can't afford, and they're still working people contributing to the tax base in New Jersey.
We have to make it more affordable in New Jersey, and that can't just be a cutesy saying. More affordability means you are cutting costs at some point, with healthcare costs rising, with insurance costs rising. I mean, the state has certain restrictions, but there's also a ton of bloat, a ton of bureaucracy, and a ton of unfairness where they just think the solution is spending their way out of a problem. They're not spending their way to better outcomes in education, and things like that need to be massively overhauled when it's $12 billion of our budget that are going into schools.
Right. And what priorities can the Assembly Republicans really push hard to accomplish? Because, these topics, you just, look on social media what people are talking about, what the buzz is, whether it's, schools are closing, schools can't afford their extracurricular programs, they can't afford their sports programs. Certain areas, people can't afford to purchase a new home because they're going for outrageously expensive costs. There are taxes and fees. If you sell your house for a certain amount of money, then you've got to pay an extra 1%. Like, it just seems like every place you turn, you're being charged for simply breathing. Is that the next tax?
You're making my points for me, right? The solution is not just figuring out more taxes, it's figuring out savings.
Right. Well, can you just talk a little bit about then the priorities that the Assembly Republicans are going to be pushing hardest to accomplish in response to the administration's agenda, especially when it comes to working families in a district like yours?
So we've stood up a new policy committee, and that policy committee is going to be bringing forth common sense legislation that deals with big solutions, like the energy crisis, where we need to get small modular nuclear online. We need to bring back our natural gas plants. We need to stop demonizing fossil fuel, and we need to stop throwing money at industries that are not ready for prime time yet. That's one really big tenet of what we're doing. We want to fix the school funding formula. To do that, we actually have to know what the school funding formula is, know what the data inputs are, know what the outputs are, and take out that last insidious step where people just decide more money's going here, less money's going there. And we got to keep going down the line. We have to make make this a better climate for corporations to be able to do business in. We have to stop scaring them away. Manufacturing jobs, we've lost like 50% of our manufacturing jobs over the last chunk of years. It just keeps getting worse and worse. And if we're scaring away the people that are funding the programs that we need, we're not going to have any kind of future in New Jersey.
So you've got a couple of deadlines, the short term, June 30th for the budget, and then your, longer term issues, from energy costs, housing, education, even preparing for the World Cup, America 250. Can you give us just some of your final thoughts? Do you see room for Republicans to be able to input some of the things you've talked about today to actually shape some of the outcomes?
Look, New Jersey's a great state. We've got a lot of incredible things coming up this year, and we certainly do see some initial overtures. What that actually translates to in terms of real world output for the state of New Jersey. Are we going to go in an ideological direction, or are we going to go in a financially, fiscally responsible one? Those are the questions that need to be answered over the next couple months.
And final thoughts, what would you say success would look like for this administration from your side of the aisle?
I think success would be Republicans and Democrats alike all agreeing that this state is more affordable and that we've driven costs down for the average person.
Assemblyman Paul Kanitra, thank you so much for your time. Always good to see you.
Thank you, Laura.
And that'll do it for today. I'm Laura Jones. Thanks so much for watching New Jersey Politics. We look forward to seeing you back here next time.